This is Capital Insider, taking you inside politics, policy, and government in Oklahoma. I'm Dick Pryor with Quorum Call publisher Sean Ashley. Sean, much of the news coming out of state government the last few weeks has centered around the changing of the guard at the State Department of Education and action taken by new state superintendent Lyndall Fields. The latest State Board of Education meeting held Thursday was described by your reporter, Sydney Lee, as short and calm. The board approved its flat budget request to the legislature. What are they doing about the state social studies standards that have come under scrutiny?
The board voted unanimously Thursday to review those social studies standards for a period of 60 days to consider possible further action with respect to the standards. Now, as we've talked about before, those standards have prompted two legal challenges pending in the Oklahoma Supreme Court because of their content, which focuses heavily on the influence of Christianity on U.S. history and the way in which they were adopted.
Meantime, in Washington, D.C., the federal government shutdown is in its fourth week. How are services in Oklahoma being affected?
It really depends from agency to agency and the federal programs in which they participate. One of the biggest is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, that is overseen by the Department of Human Services. According to the department, currently more than 684,680 Oklahomans rely on SNAP benefits to supplement their family's monthly food purchases. The U.S. Department of Agriculture informed the Department of Human Services this past week that federal funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program will be suspended beginning November 1 due to the government shutdown. DHS Director Jeffrey Cartmel told the House Appropriations and Budget Subcommittee on Human Services during a meeting Tuesday, quote, "I think there is a real concern on what that looks like from a hunger security perspective, from a malnutrition perspective, from a vulnerable adult or child perspective in the month of November. You're talking about a significant impact to over 600,000 Oklahomans."
The sports world was rocked on Thursday when federal law enforcement officials announced a wide-ranging gambling investigation that led to the arrest of a player for the Miami Heat, the Portland Trail Blazers head coach, and a former NBA player and assistant coach. The FBI announced charges against at least 30 people involving sports gambling and prominent crime families. While that was being announced in D.C., sports betting was being discussed at the state capitol in Oklahoma.
That's right. Senate Business and Insurance Committee Chair Bill Coleman requested the interim study on online or app-based sports betting. He is the author of legislation with Representative Ken Luttrell that would legalize sports betting in Oklahoma, but that legislation has yet to pass both chambers. Oklahoma Indian Gaming Commission Chair Matthew Morgan reminded members that Native American tribes have to be part of these discussions because of the state's gaming compact structure. And the committee also heard from the Oklahoma City Thunder that wants to be part of the talks as well and part of the solution. Coleman said he hopes Oklahoma will approve sports betting during the 2026 legislative session, particularly since Texas is also considering it.
The Legislative Compensation Board met Tuesday and decided not to change the amount of pay for state legislators. How long will that decision be in effect?
Lawmakers receive a base salary of $47,500. That level was originally set in 2019, and normally the board's decision would be in effect until 2027. But the board will meet again in November, and one of its members indicated he wants to ask the board to reconsider its decision not to increase lawmakers' base pay, which drew a sharp rebuke from two members of the board. Now, you may wonder, why is the board going to meet again in November when it's supposed to meet in October and make that decision? That's because a bill passed this year, House Bill 2764, makes the members of the Legislative Compensation Board members of the statewide elected officials compensation commission, which sets the salaries for statewide elected officials. Now, that bill doesn't take effect until November 1st, and it requires this Legislative Compensation Board to meet again so the statewide elected officials compensation board can meet, opening the door for legislators' salaries to possibly be reconsidered.
So, there you have it, and it's complicated.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
You're very welcome.
For more information, go to quorumcall.online. You can find video of Capitol Insider segments on the KGOU YouTube channel. Audio and transcripts are at kgou.org. And look for Capitol Insider where you get podcasts. Until next time, with Sean Ashley, I'm Dick Pryor.